So in this tutorial, I want to show you how to construct this presentation border that you're going to be using to present your project. The site plan, the floor plan, and the elevation. So it's going to be the same border for all three. And we're calling it X border because it will be externally referenced. Those are the dimensions. We're going to go with an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. And we're going to give ourselves a 1/4 inch border on all four sides. So the border size itself is going to be 16.5 by 10.5. So we'll go ahead and get started. And then one thing I want to point out here is we're going to be putting everything on a layer called A for architecture and then border. So A border is what we will name that layer. So I'll move this out of the way. And I'll go ahead and get started. I'm using my HWC template. Let me type in UCS icon. Enter, and I'm going to set that to no origin. All right, and I'll zoom out a little bit here. So first thing I'm going to do, I am on layer 0, so let me fix that and go to my layer properties manager, create a new layer here, and that'll be called A border. And I should spell that properly, but I think I did. Yes, I did. Just double checking. Let's check here. Yeah, border. All right, just double checking. Let's go back to my properties. All right, architectural border. And for what we're going to do, we'll leave it on the color white, and that'll be fine. I know it might confuse you with layer 0, but we should be okay here. So I'm going to move off of that. I forgot to make it current, so I'll just go ahead and click here and make that my current layer. Now, we're going to assume it's an 11 by 17 sheet size, and I'll put that here into my drawing. And I'm going to start with a rectangle. So I'm going to come up here to my home tab, draw panel. I'm going to click on rectangle. And it says, go ahead and specify the first corner point. That's going to be at 0, 0. So X equals 0, Y equals 0, enter. And then for the opposite corner, I know that my X is going to be 17 inches and my Y is going to be 11. So I'm going to enter 17, 11, enter. And I zoomed out too far. That's fine. I'll just type zoom extents again here. And I'll go to measure. And I can see that it is 11 by 17. All four corners are square. Great. Tap the escape key. Now, if I go back to the example, we're going to bring in the border, or we're going to give ourselves a 1/4 inch margin. So since this is already a polyline, it's great. I'll just type O, enter. And I'm going to offset it 1/4 inch. So you can either type 1/4 like this, or you can type 0.25, enter. And it already wants to offset it to the middle because that's where I had my cursor. So I'm just going to click right here and then enter. I'll check those dimensions. And that's what I want to have. I'll tap the escape key. Now, I don't need this outer polyline anymore. I mean, you can keep it there while you construct your border and then erase it at the very end. But that way you'll know, the limits of what you've got. So I now have a polyline in here. And what I want to do is I want my border to really stand out a bit. So I'm going to change the width of my polyline so that my border has a little bit of thickness to it, but not a lot. And I said thickness, but I meant width. So I'll just select it. And then I'll come over here to my properties. And I see the global width, and I'm going to change that. And just exaggerating here a little bit, if I type 1 and enter, you can see how bold that makes it. This is a polyline with a width. So that's too much. And I'm going to change that global width from 1 inch down to, let's say, 1/4. And that may still be too much, maybe 1/8 of an inch. I'm doing this on purpose because I want you to really think about this. I don't want you to just look at my example and go, oh, he used this thickness, I'll use the same thickness. You could, that's fine, but experiment with this. Have a little fun with it. And I may even change that even more to a 16th. Maybe. I might come back and change it later, but that's a start. So that's what I can do for my border. Now, if you don't want a border on all four sides, you can always change this. So since I have a polyline here, all I have to do is type TR, enter, and I can trim this line and this one, enter. So maybe I just want a border at the top and bottom. So that can work too. And I'll show you a different way that I would go about doing this, just to introduce you to these concepts. So let's say I offset again, and it's still a 1/4 inch, enter, and I pick my line or polyline, bring it in like this, enter. And this is a polyline, so let's say I explode it, X, enter, and then I can go ahead and just individually pick lines here and delete them. Now I'm left with 2 lines, one at the top and the bottom. And lines do not have a width. So I need to convert this to a polyline. So to do that, I have to use the polyline edit command, and that is PE, enter. And I can select a line, even though it says polyline, so I can pick this one. And then enter. And it tells me it's converting it. And then from here, I could set the width. And I'll set that width to, let's say, 1/16 of an inch. Enter, and then enter again to terminate the command. So that's how you can take a line, convert it into a polyline, and then be able to adjust the width. And since I did that up there, I can take this one, delete it, and then I'll just type MI, enter. From here, enter, select this point, across, and enter. So I have that. I can also get a little fancy, not too fancy, just a little bit. So I'll take this line, delete it, take this line, sorry, polyline, and delete it. And I'm going to try something else. I'm going to try to offset. Actually, no, I'm going to set it to an offset of a 1/4 inch from here, there. And then I'm going to do another 1/4 inch like this. And then I'm going to explode, X, enter, both of these like that. And then what I'm going to do is come in over here. I'm going to draw a rectangle from this point to that point. And then I'll do the same thing on this side. And I could do it at the bottom, but at this point, I'm going to mirror this. MI, enter. Okay. And then the outer lines, don't need them anymore. They just serve their purpose. Like this. And look at the border that I now have. But if I want to turn this into a polyline, these are still, their own polylines, and I want that to all be connected. So I'm going to type X. Now let's see if I can pick all 4 of them at once and enter. It picked more. It even picked the outline. That's okay. That's been exploded. And then now I have line segments here. But what I want to do first is join this line segment and that one so that they become one. Let's see if that worked. Yes. I'll do the same thing over here. Now I'll have to do it on all sides. So join this one and that one. Enter, enter. Join those. Come on over here. J, enter. Pick this one. Pick that one. Enter. Enter again to repeat the join command. This one and that one. And then one more. This takes a little bit of time, but it goes quick. J, enter. And enter. And then one more. Enter. And now I can join all of them. So I'll type J one last time, enter, window all of this. And yes, it's picking the other outer lines, but they're not going to join into this one. So I'll just enter. They're basically just going to join themselves, and then look at this. That's joined now too. So that's nice. And then I can just pick it, come over here to properties, and give it a global width here. Whatever I want. I'll try 16th. And then tap the escape key. So that can work. You don't want your border to take away the attention of the drawings. You just want something nice, something presentable. So I'm just throwing out some ideas. And then the last one I'm going to go with, I'll delete this. And let me offset again, 1/4 inch from here to there. And then I'm going to offset another 1/4 inch like this. Okay. And then I'm going to draw an arc. And this will be a 3-point arc from here to there to there. And let's see. And now I can go ahead and just delete the lines here. Polylines, rather. So erase these two. I want to see if I can convert this to a polyline. Sometimes I can't do it with arcs, but let's see. PE, enter, select it, enter, and it did work. Great. And then I can type or select width. Again, just going with a 16th inch for now, and enter. And then just like I've done before, I can mirror that. 1 second. MI, enter. Select it, enter. From here across there, enter. And if you wanted to, you can also complete the other two. It's up to you. This is me just giving examples of what you can do with very simple, straightforward borders. I'll take this, I will delete, I'll take that and delete. And if you want to get super minimalistic here, I'll do this one more time. Offset, 1/4 inch. Take this line, offset it up, enter, explode, and then just delete the 3 lines here. And I'm left with just one at the bottom. Convert it to a polyline and do what you'd like. So those are all different options. Whatever pleases you, whatever looks aesthetically pleasing, just go with that. All right. So let me just go back and put in the border that I started with, and I'll move on from there. Okay. Taking it here, take my properties and try 1/8 inch. We'll see how that goes. All right. Now, the next thing to do, oh, please do not forget to save with the appropriate file name. It will have an X and it will say border because we're going to be referencing it. So if I go back to my example here, we need to drop in some text. Right here where it says project title, just make sure you place the text here along the bottom. That's typically where it goes in architectural drawings, and you can justify it to the left, to the center, to the right. If you feel inclined for whatever reason to put the text along the side over here, you can do that. So think about it. And again, as long as it doesn't take away from the project, you should be okay. So I need to put some text in here, and we haven't done text yet. So here we go. You need to come over here to annotate. And from annotate, you're going to see in the text panel that you have a couple of options for text. So here are the couple of options for text. You have multi-line and single line. The keyboard shortcut is mtext. You type mtext to get that. And then this one here, single line, it says you simply type text. I'm used to typing dtext. That's fine. Either one will work. So let me show you what this is like. But before I do that, we do need to come in here and establish a text style. So I'm going to click on this very small arrow right here, the down arrow where it says text style, and open that. And AutoCAD has a style here called annotative. And then the font associated with that is Arial. And then there's another style here called standard. And that one also has Arial attached to it, or associated with it rather. we're going to create a new style. So go ahead and click on new. When you click on new here, it wants a name. So the name here is going to be project title, because I just want to use this font specifically for my project title. So I'll click OK. That's my style. And then the font name, go ahead and pick a font. And depending on what fonts are loaded on your system, you may see a longer or shorter list compared to mine. But I will say pick a font that is easy to read. So this Arial, which has been used in the other ones, is very straightforward, very easy to read. You may be able to get away with a font such as Times, which is a serif-based font. And I'll show that to you in a second here, as soon as I can bring it up. So there's Times New Roman. It shows you the preview. That might get a little difficult to read, but go ahead and pick something to your liking. I would just stay away from fonts that look a little too playful. So there is one in here called Comic Sans, I believe. Yeah. And fonts like these, we don't want to use. There's also a script font, and you want to stay away from those. Let me see if I can find it here. Is there a script? 1 second. There we go. All right, so you want to stay away from fonts like this. And by the way, anything with an SHX extension, that's just an old AutoCAD font. Anything with a TTF or otherwise is a TrueType font. So there's that one to stay away from. But basically, you have many other fonts to pick from. One that I've used before is like a Century Gothic, very simple and straightforward to read. So take your time, pick something that you like, and then go ahead and set it as your current text style and say yes. And you'll notice I didn't set a height here because I want to set that in my AutoCAD drawing. So I'll go ahead and close this out. All right, now I'll put in my text. So multi-line text, that is MT, mtext, and enter. And it's going to say, go ahead and specify a corner for the text. So I'm just going to put it anywhere right now, and I'll position it in just a moment. So I'm going to click right here. And then it says, go ahead and specify a size of that box. So I'll just click over here. And right away, I can go ahead and start typing. So call your project anything you want. I'm just using project title generically here, but you could give it, put your initials in there, put your name, your last name, residence, whatever you'd like. Have a little fun with it. So mine's just going to be called project title, and this will be all caps like this. And then when I'm done, I'll just come up here and close the text editor. So it dropped in the text. And then what I like to do is select it and then come over to my properties and then make the adjustments here. So let's say my justification, I want to change that. You have a lot of options here. And I'm going to change it to bottom center. That's just a personal choice. You'll see why in just a second. The text height, I want to change this. So I want my text to be a little bit bigger. So what is a good height? I'm going to let you determine that, but definitely nothing smaller than an 1/8 inch and nothing bigger than a 1/2. So if I go somewhere in between, I'm going to say 1/4 inch and enter. You see how the text got a little bit bigger. So that could work out. There's a line space factor here. So if you want to kind of tighten that up, you could. So let me just set this to 0.5 and you'll see. Did it narrow it? No, that's line spacing. Apologies. I'll leave that at 1. There is something else here. I guess I would have to change it in the other window, but that's okay. So there's a lot of settings here you can play with, and I'll leave it there. And here's what I meant by changing the text a little bit. I'll go back to my text style. And it's the width factor that I wanted to adjust. So instead of 1, if I change that to say 0.5, see how it tightens it up, really condensing it. If I apply and then close, you see what happens. It's a little too much. I exaggerated that on purpose, but I will undo. Just wanted to show you, you can control that. Now, I selected my text to be justified center towards the bottom because what I'd like to do is select my text, pick it from that base point, and then let me turn ortho off. And I just want to bring it down here and let it snap to the midpoint like that. And then tap the escape key. And I can bring it up a little bit. So I can type M, enter, move it, enter, turn ortho back on, and just move it up like this. And looking at the distance, I probably can move it up 1/8 of an inch. So I can do this if I wanted. Or I'm going to undo. And this works sometimes. I'm going to try it out here. I'm going to see if I can trim using the text. So I'm going to type TR, enter. And if I click here, yep, it'll work. Enter. See how it crops or it trims the border. So that's pretty nice. And then if I bring this in a little bit, you'll see that's where it trimmed it. So I could have adjusted this before, but that's fine. So that's one option that you have. So let me undo that. And then I'll put the text back here. If I wanted to put the text in the corner, I would justify that right. And I would stay with the bottom. And I would say bottom right, like that. Tap the escape key. And you notice when I select the text, I have this grip over here that gives me the column width. It doesn't need to be that wide. I can just bring it in. And the nice thing about MText is if I bring it in even more, look at how it starts to stack it. So that's a nice feature. So I'll bring it out over here. And then I want to move the text. So let me show this to you. I'm going to type M, enter, select the object, enter, and then shift right click. And that base point of the text is actually referred to as the node. So I click on node and finds the node, actually put it at the top. Interesting. It didn't put it at the bottom. Is what it is. Bring it over here and I'll just place it right there. And then I'll type M, enter, select my object, enter, bring it straight up, turn ortho on. And I like to keep things very exact here. So perhaps bringing it up 1/2 inch, sure. And then move it again. And bring it in 1/2 inch as well. And I was told by a graphic designer, you always want to keep the space equal on the bottom and equal on the side. So I'm going to bring it over more or bring it back. And this time I'm just going to eyeball it. And it looks like somewhere there should work. And it looks like 1/4 inch will work. So 1/4 inch. So that reads a little better. So you can do that. And then of course, if you want to put it on the other side, left side, you can do that also. I'm just showing you some options. And then from here, zoom extents, Control S to save it. And I don't need this outer border anymore. It was just guiding me. So I'm just going to delete that. And this is my border. When I start using it, if I find that I don't like certain settings or certain widths on my polylines, I'll go ahead and come back in here, change it. And because it's going to be an external reference, it will update. So make sure to save and you should be all set to go. Thanks. All right, I realized that I forgot to show you dtext, and I want to do that. So this is MText, and MText is very common now in AutoCAD. But before we had the MText, multi-line text, we only had dtext. So let me show that to you. So for dtext, I simply type DT, and that used to stand for dynamic text, but that was way back when. Now it's just simply text, and it's like it is single line text. So I'm going to enter here, and then it says specify the start point of the text. And you'll see that it already has a height, and that's fine. So I'm going to click right here. And then it says, all right, text, specify the height. So it was showing 3/16, and here's where I get a chance to change it. So I'm going to change it to a 1/4 inch and then enter. And then it wants a rotation, but I want to keep it going straight. So I'm going to click right here. And now I can go ahead and type the text. So I'm going to type in the same text, project, title, and then I enter. And when I do this, it's like an old typewriter where it assumes that I want to put more text. So here, I'm going to do this, line 2, and then I enter. And this will be my line 3, and I can keep going. But at a certain point, I've just got to stop. So to terminate this command, you just enter one more time, and it'll stop. Now, the difference between single line text here and my multi-line text is that this is contained within a text box. And if I double click it, you'll see that area, and then I can always make this a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, what have you. And I can shrink it, and you can see what it does, right? It's all moving together. Let me put that back. And somewhere here, I think it was. Let me undo because I've been doing too many things there. All right. With this text, you'll notice it just has one grip point, and it's not all one. These are individual lines of text, which means I can take this one and delete it. And there's no way to, bind it or have it bound within a box. So I just have to live with it like this. I can still change the properties on it. I can still change justification, and they're all there. So I can still center it like this, and there's the center point. Notice how it shifted the text over a little bit. But if I had the two lines and I wanted them to be connected, it's just not going to be possible. So just keep that in mind. Whereas with mtext, I'll double click that. I'll go to the very end here, and I could say line 1, enter, line 2, and then I just click off of it. And you see how it's all together, multi-line text. Not going to happen with dtext. So let me undo that. But the nice thing about dtext is that once I put it in there and I just want one line of text, it's just a lot easier to work with sometimes. So I can take this, move it over. Let's go to turn off ortho, place it somewhere here, give it a click. And let's see if I can trim with single line text. So if I type tr, enter, I click right here, it'll work, and enter. So same applies. And if that feels a little too tight for you, just use the grips, grip it and just move it over whatever distance you want, turn on ortho. Yeah, it's up to you. So that's the difference between both of them. There are advantages to both, but like I said, we primarily use multi-line text these days. So either one will work for us in this project because it's just the title. So no big deal. All right, that's what I want to show you. Thank you very much. Make sure you go ahead and save.